This is R2D Tech, and today we're going to have a look at probably the first folding OLED display implementation in a laptop, or at least the first one that I've seen anyway, and that of course is the Lenovo Thinkpad X1 Fold, so stay tuned. So in the last couple of years, we have seen quite a few folding OLED implementations in smartphones, both by Samsung and Razer and even some other companies. But to be honest, we haven't really seen any in laptops until Lenovo came out with this product. And I personally think that the laptop could be the best implementation for this technology, just because laptops are actually quite big, and if you can fit them into a smaller form factor while keeping most, if not all, of the functionality, then that could definitely be the future. In terms of general design, this product by Lenovo is actually surprisingly premium. So the back is made almost entirely of a leather-like material, which is very nice. And also the inside, yes, does have some very thick bezels, but they are made of rubber, or at least a rubber-like material, which is very helpful for one of the implementations which we'll get onto later. And the last thing to mention is that it does have a built-in kickstand on the back, which adds some extra functionality. So there's several use cases or ways you can use this device, and the first of which is probably the most obvious, which is to have it fully unfolded so you get a 13.3-inch uninterrupted tablet. And that can be really useful for viewing content or making notes if you buy the stylus as well. And of course, with the kickstand, which is built into the back, you can prop this up horizontally and watch a movie or anything like that on the device. The next use case is probably the main reason why somebody might buy a device like this, and of course that's the laptop mode. So you can fold the top half or the top section of the display about halfway and create an L shape. Of course the display is still an uninterrupted OLED panel, but it looks kind of more like a laptop. And using software, you can either have different documents on the top half and the bottom half, or probably more usefully, you can have a virtual keyboard on the bottom half, and then you can have your document on the top and use it as a laptop. Now, of course, many people will not really enjoy using a virtual keyboard. It just doesn't have that same tactile feel. So instead, they've actually released a mod, which is an actual Bluetooth keyboard, which magnetically attaches onto the bottom half, and then you can use it as a proper laptop. And it also charges through the device as well through some connectors. I think that's pretty cool. And the other really cool part of this is that when you close or fold the device without the keyboard there is a bit of a gap, and that gap is there so that if you want to leave the keyboard on that bottom section, when you fold it all up, it will actually be flush, so you don't need to take the keyboard out every time. I think this is really nice and probably the best implementation. The last use case is probably the most niche, and I'm guessing won't get used very often, but I can definitely see it being fairly useful in some scenarios, and that's the book mode. So if you open it kind of like a book, so like that, or I guess for you guys like that, then you can actually obviously read a book that way on the device, or you can have, say, one document open on the right and maybe a Zoom call on the left. So nowadays it could actually be quite useful if you're just chilling on the sofa or something and you want to just read a book, you can do that. And it's just nice to have that extra feature there. Now, since the main use case, or at least what I think the main use case is, would be to use this as a laptop, you do need some fairly decent specs to support this. So luckily you do get an Intel Core i5 processor with 8GB of RAM and up to 1TB of storage. This should be perfectly sufficient for the everyday Word document and surfing the web. So I'm guessing for most business people, it will be the perfect solution. If you do need to run any more intense softwares or game, I definitely don't think this would be for you. But for probably the vast majority of people, it would run just fine. Now, the other thing is you do get a 50 Wh battery, which is pretty decent, and you get a 65 W charging power brick in the box. Luckily, they did include that in the box, unlike other people, but overall, it's a pretty decent spec laptop. The next big thing to consider is software, and this does run Windows 10, so you're not restricted to a lower tier software. That is very nice, and that does mean you'll be able to download lots of stuff that you want to. But again, I definitely need to reiterate that if you want to run anything more intense than a few Word documents and maybe some browser pages, this is probably not the right thing for you. I personally study aerospace engineering at the moment, and I do need to run some pretty intense softwares for that. So a laptop like this just wouldn't do for anything like running CAD or gaming, or maybe some other softwares like analytical softwares. But if that's not you and you just need to make some basic documents and stuff like maybe most students would, then it's probably going to be fine. Another pretty important thing which I'm guessing most people are going to be quite curious about is the size of this thing when it's folded up, because it does need to be fairly portable since that's kind of the main idea. And this is going to be around 23 centimeters in length and around 16 centimeters in width and then 2 centimeters in depth. So that 23 by around 16 centimeters in length and width is actually pretty small. So it's pretty small compared to even the iPad Pro 11-inch, which I've got here. So it will probably run about almost the full length of this iPad, but only around 2/3 of the actual width. So if you look at that ruler over there, that probably doesn't help much. But it is actually pretty compact. Of course, the thickness is probably more than double what this iPad's thickness is, but that's not a huge deal, I'm guessing, for most people, since you're just going to throw it into your rucksack. I'm guessing the length and width are the bigger concern in this case. And I can say, just by looking at this iPad over here, which is already really small, this device is definitely pretty compact. So overall, this is a very interesting idea and is a very versatile device because you can use it for just viewing content, chilling, reading a book, but you can also use it as a laptop for getting some work done, as long as that work isn't too intense. Maybe if you're doing like an engineering course like me or a science course, it won't be the best device for you, but probably for the vast majority of students or people out there, it will be a pretty good fit. Now, if you did like the video, please leave a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, then smash that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell below.